Hello and welcome to this month's live. It is great to have you here. There were votes as to what the topic should be, and recent research was what was highly rated. So with that, I looked into what the most cutting edge research was, and this was before the announcements on Monday about leucovorin and everything like that. So that might have changed things. I'm certainly willing to talk about leucovorin if you would like. I want everyone to feel welcome here. You can ask questions related to autism. I do have some really interesting research on the PTSD that parents experience and how to unravel that. So there's actual research on that. So I think that is really important to understand, because us as parents, we love our kids tremendously, to the moon and back. And there is an element of difficulty parenting a child with autism that is not there when parenting a child without autism. And so it's important certainly to acknowledge that. And as a parent, to understand that these are all emotions that we feel. And if we don't handle those emotions, they certainly could turn into different stresses in our life. So different health crises. I know certainly a lot of parents, they just wear their health down, right? If you're not sleeping, there's so much that, there's only so much our bodies can take as well. And we also experience different traumatic events when we're parenting a child with autism. So it can go all the way from suicide attempt to eloping to a variety of different accidents, maybe aggression, punching the wall, punching the parent themselves. So there definitely is a lot that can add up and really put a burden on our life. But we love our kids so much, we might not even ever want to acknowledge that. So we certainly can talk all about the research there. I do see some comments, so definitely pop comments in if you have specific questions. Geraldine, hello. Geraldine is in Ireland, I believe. Good to see you. Nina, good morning. Nina is a parent who works with me on the Navigating Autism platform. Good to see you here too. She is an amazing parent. I love Nina. Okay, so if there's any questions, just pop it into the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. And if not, then we'll go straight to the research. Okay, I actually queued up just a photo, hold on, a photo of the first page so you can see that this is legitimate. Here, I'll pop it on the screen. So this is legitimate research that we are talking. It was published, and the research took place in the Netherlands, and it's 2025. So I certainly wanted to just give it an acknowledgement as to the authors, and that this is real research that goes on to understand the parent of the child with autism. There have been other PTSD research done on parents of autistic children. So this isn't the first study, but it certainly is. It's important because we want to be there for the long run for our kids. And you are a loving parent if you're searching for answers to figure out what can help your child. Right? Not necessarily what can change your child and all this negativity. It's really more what can really help your child be who they really are and not be limited by anything. And as parents, we can see a lot of these limits that prevent our children from living to their fullest potential, right? So maybe different types of aggression and things like that. And that's why we take the brunt of it. And it certainly can add up. So the topic is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. So that's EMDR. And it's for the parents of adolescents. They were specifically studying adolescents, right? Because you have then a decade or more of experience that might have built up. And so these kids, these teenagers had autism and severe emotional dysregulation, right? So it was both. And there's a lot that goes into parenting autism, and then also autism with emotional dysregulation. And it really can trigger PTSD in parents. Sometimes parents receive official diagnosis of PTSD, other times not, but diagnosis or not, the trauma that can be experienced is certainly there. And especially when you love someone so much as we love our kids, then the trauma, I think, can even feel more intense, right? And there certainly is an element of shame, and also an element of not even really wanting to acknowledge it. So I certainly appreciate all those aspects. This was a small study. It was 7 parents. The kids were aged from 16 to 21. So again, small study, and they did EMDR. Now, I've never done EMDR, and after reading this research, I thought this might be something interesting just to try to experience. When I was researching what exactly it is, and is this equality therapy? It really just reminded me of rapid eye movement when someone is sleeping. And then it really just got me thinking, like, okay, if we're doing rapid eye movement at night and that's helping naturally process things, if our kids aren't sleeping and our sleep is constantly disrupted and we're not getting that deep sleep, that would be another logical reason as to why this stress can also build up, maybe in parents who aren't dealing with suicide or something like that. But if your child's not sleeping, then your natural way of just processing emotions, which happen at night, right? We do all the detoxification, our brain does so many magical things. It just really helps, for me at least, bring this into logic as to how this can build up, and we still love our kids. So they were assessed before, during, and after the treatment. Again, small clinical study, right? So 7 parents, small, but this is how things start. So that was the treatment, and then they had a follow-up, a 6-week and a 3-month follow-up. So it's really nice to see, timeline wise, right? This is always important for autism, whether it's leucovorin or whether it's something like this, like having an expectation of time. How much time should I be given this as a legitimate thing to work? It's super important to have, whether it's for yourself or something you're doing for your child. Okay, so let's see. The parents, I made some notes so I didn't miss any of the research. All right, so the parents were diagnosed with PTSD, and the PTSD was specifically from child-related events. So I do want to be clear, this wasn't PTSD from something else. And so the study found that EMDR therapy worked really well for these parents. So PTSD symptoms dropped to non-diagnosable levels, right? So one could say that the PTSD diagnosis was not retained, right? Same kind of things can happen in autism, right? So in here, the PTSD, the symptoms dropped to non-diagnosable levels. The parents reported less stress, better quality of life. So that went into, they were measuring sleep, hypervigilance. I think all of us autism parents can really understand that, especially if our child elopes, or there's so many, like, they just sometimes do things, right? And so you're always on guard. That hypervigilance is really stressful, and it doesn't even go away, I don't think, for the most part, when a child goes to school, because you're still like like something could happen. So you're being hyper vigilant again, because you are a great person and a great parent, right? So that hyper vigilance, they reported to have decreased, and also just enjoying daily life again. So there was an overall improvement, right? But you can see how that's related. If you are sleeping good, you're starting off the day pretty good. Like, that's the way to start the day, right? So if you have better sleep, you're just starting well. And then if you're not as hyper vigilant, like you're not just on that, oh my gosh, I have to react, your nerves, your central nervous system, it can't take that for so long. So really unwinding that is awesome. And then, yeah, enjoying daily life again. Like, it all makes sense. This is all very logical. I'm glad that this study was done, because it can legitimize us parents taking some time for us. Now, some people call it self-care, right? That's kind of how it begins. But if it doesn't begin and things pile up and you end up with a PTSD diagnosis, then it's important to know that this has been studied and there are legitimate ways of reducing that so that you could enjoy life again. And here's the other thing that once I read this, I was like, oh, I have to tell everyone. So the child, the adolescent with autism, in 5 out of 7 cases, they also had less emotional dysregulation. So a few different of their symptoms also decreased, different behavioral symptoms and things like that, behavioral issues. So that's the key thing to really take to mind and take to heart when you're stressed out and you're like, listen, I need a moment. I need to do something for myself. It's extremely important to do that, because when you start unwinding and you start feeling better, then it trickles over to your child. It does. Like, and again, it's like the research is showing. And I don't want you to also then twist it into the other way and be like, okay, well, when I'm stressed, I'm causing stress to my child. And, like, don't look at it that way. Right? Don't look at it that way. I know you have a big heart and you probably will, but that's definitely not the essence of the research. The research is take care of yourself, unwind yourself, and then that is another way you can help your child. So if you're ever faced with the decision of, okay, do I go and try and do this therapy for my child, or take them to a lesson, or like kind of add stress to me, and then I'm kind of yelling them at the car and I'm just, or should I like take 5 minutes and go take a walk around the block? Or should I take, some time? It doesn't have to be an entire day, but these are the kinds of choices you can make, knowing that just because you're taking time out for yourself doesn't mean your child is not benefiting. And I see that as the reason why a lot of parents don't take some of this time out to unwind the stress, to acknowledge it, to maybe therapy, like this EMDR. I really think I might try and find someone to do this and just really understand it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having different tools to help de-stress. So I really might check that out. If anyone has done EMDR and you want to share, certainly drop that into the comments. I would love to know more about that, specifically how it relates to parenting a child with autism. I think that's really important for us to get more specific about. Okay, I see a comment. Let me just, another comment. Yep, good morning to everyone. Hello. Okay, everyone's saying hello. Nice. Good to see new faces, new people. If you have a question or anything like that, certainly feel free to drop it into the comments. All right. So, we definitely can keep talking about PTSD and our kids. And I think I was at the point where I was explaining how really taking care of yourself. Like when you have those two choices of like, oh my gosh, should I do something that makes me think I'm doing something, but I'm miserable doing it and it's adding to my stress? Should I just do it to like check off a box and say, yeah, we're doing it? Or should I go and do something to help my stress level, right? So you don't have to feel the guilt of saying, okay, I'm going to do this so I can decrease my stress, right? Like we have the research shown right here that when parents are reporting less stress and better quality of life, better sleep, less hypervigilance, all of that, the adolescent child themselves also improved. Now, they did not do EMDR. They did not do, like, you did not do anything additional to the child. You took care of yourself. And by doing that, your child had improved, the research shows, so with less emotional dysregulation and behavioral issues. So that's something I really hope you take to heart. You see the research and you feel that you feel that it is okay to unwind the stress that you're feeling, and it's okay to acknowledge that stress, and it's okay to really start unwinding a lot of that, because your child does benefit. The research shows it. So so this is one of the first studies to focus on the trauma in parents of autistic adolescents, right? Small study, that's why 7 parents. Yes, it was a small study, but it's important because it shows, the research shows that when a parent starts to, you could consider it, heal themselves, right? When they start to address the stress from the overall situation, indirectly their child benefits. So I think that's really important to understand. And just having the focus on the family. Yes, it's so important to focus on our child because they need so much. They have different challenges. They have a whole variety of things you're dealing with that you might not be dealing with, let's say, if you have other children, or just in general. So having that focus on the family is important. And hopefully you feel that from me, because, right, I know this from experience. I know those nights where you don't sleep for, I don't know, months, it felt like years sometimes, and just kind of what that does to the ability to function every day. So yes, I focus on our children, but I'm also focused on you as the parent, because it's needed, and it's a family approach. So I wanted to show you the science as to why it's important to take care of yourself. And just, very, very practical. So your trauma matters too. And there are different experiences with autism that are traumatic. It doesn't mean that we love our kids any less, but if you see your child headbutting, right, or headbutting the wall, headbanging the floor, that does something to a parent. You hear that noise and it's very jarring. You can feel that almost on the nervous system of the parent, right? So now you start to become more and more on edge, like, oh my gosh, you don't want them to bang their head, which is legitimate. But that is traumatic for them to experience, obviously, right? And for you to experience not only just the head banging, right, the noise, but then what comes with that is when you're trying to find a solution. I think this is also the trauma that we experience as parents, right? So you have that traumatic experience of head banging. Let's just use head banging, right? We could, there's a variety of things that we can do, but head banging. When then we try to find a solution, that's when it also becomes more, I would say, traumatic, because you go and maybe ask a doctor and they're like, or, you start to seek help and no one's has an answer. And so then you start to feel more helpless. The head banging continues, and then you feel more helpless and you're trying to fight. So that traumatic event of head banging can really spiral, right? And then you might feel alone. You might feel like, I'm a terrible parent because I can't figure this out. My friends aren't dealing with their child banging their head. So it can really, that one instance can then really build in the trauma. So um, just know that some of the experience of the trauma that you're feeling is just because you have that deep and profound love and are a great parent trying to figure it out. But I would say that whole situation is traumatic, especially when the parent is trying to figure out a solution and it's not an easy answer. So the other thing is for doctors, so really to be as kind and understanding as possible to parents. I know sometimes that's not the easiest. You might be having a bad day yourself. You might not have slept well. Like there's all of these things, but really having a kindness towards parents and a compassion is really, it would really do us well. So the more kind and compassionate you can be towards a parent who is dealing with all of this is certainly appreciated from everyone. And the EMDR, I didn't go into the sessions too much because I've never done one. I can't really explain firsthand how it was done, but it was short term. It was 3 to 5 sessions. I can pull up the research and get into it if anyone has more questions on, what did that look like. We certainly can get into that. Actual research. I have the article here. But again, this isn't going to take enormous amounts of your time. And I really think the overall message is just that the trauma we experience can build up, and it can come from a variety of different sources, not just our child. But it's important to address because not only does it help us, it also helps our child. So that would be my one sentence summary of the research. So hopefully you certainly take it to heart. And that's really what I wanted to say about this research. I think it's important. And I'm very thankful to the parents who put that research together, who were on the research project, and then also the researchers who studied that. I think that's important. Money was spent on studying that, and I think it's certainly important to acknowledge. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed comments. Oh, okay. Let me put on my glasses because I missed a bunch. I'm so sorry. I did not see that. Okay, let's see. Okay, we got lots of leucovorin questions. Let me go there. We'll wrap up the PTSD topic. So yeah, Nina, being a single mom, definitely, to a special needs child. Yeah, taking time for yourself is you mirror. That is a very good description of the situation at times, right? Like we mirror each other's frustrations. I love that phrase. I think that is a perfect example of how the situation can go in a way that you don't want it to. And then I found, I remember way back in the day, when I was grouchy or frustrated, and then my daughter would mirror it back, I'd be like, oh my goodness, is that how frustrated I look? I caught my reflection in her mirror, and then it was like a way for me to acknowledge, yeah, that's not how I want to be. So Nina, I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. Just mirroring, and not you're so self-aware and you're so present, and making those changes in the moment. It's not about being perfect, right? We're going to get frustrated. It's not about not getting frustrated in life. It's certainly about not getting frustrated. It's about not taking out our frustration on people, on really anyone, especially our kids who we're trying to help at the most. So yeah, Nina, I think I really like that phrase, the mirroring. And Jeanette, Jeanette, good to see you too. I've been thinking of you this week. And Jeanette is also a parent on our platform, so I work with her. It is traumatic to see our kids in pain. I didn't even touch upon pain. Yes, I was touching upon all the kind of, yeah, but like stomach pain, or sometimes it's like we think they have a headache, but we're not really sure. They just seem kind of miserable. Or, sometimes it's like, oh, the child is asking me to put my hands on their ears. It doesn't look like they're in pain, but maybe they have a headache. Yeah, all of this can just add up, right? It's not necessarily a traumatic event, right? If our child is constipated, but it wears on us. And that's where the hypervigilance comes from, and thinking, okay, did they poop today? Did they poop today? All of these things. And sleeping just really compounds everything. And I feel makes it beyond difficult some days. I think that is, I 100% agree with you, Jeanette. Thank you for sharing. All right, let me, Geraldine is saying, yes, thank you for sharing. Yes. Okay, so I think there's some leucovorin and frat questions here. Okay, so let's bucket those. Okay, can you go over how to mix methylated B12 with leucovorin? Okay, I'm not really sure about mixing. Methyl B12 can be administered as shots. It can be liquid. It can be a capsule to take. Leucovorin can also be shots. It can also be liquid and tablets. Typically not a capsule, tablets. So you could get a methyl B12 shot with leucovorin in it. Some doctors do that, but not often. But so, I mean, I guess, and Andres, do you have, can you provide more context to that question? Because there's a lot to unpack there. Typically, you wouldn't necessarily mix the methylated B12 and the leucovorin in a shot until you're at more of like a maintenance dose. So B12 and leucovorin are both B vitamins, and you typically don't start at like full dose. Both of those are things that are titrated. You're going to also be looking for the wearing off effect. So you wouldn't start these two things at the same time as well, because that would be chaotic, probably for your child as well as yourself. So there's lots of strategies as to you can take them in the same day, right? Like, so if you're talking about mixing that way, you can take it in the same day. You can take it together, right? So there's not any contraindication of taking, like a B12 and a leucovorin within 30 minutes of each other. Let me just scroll down and see if you provide any more context. Let's see. Okay, so if you want to provide more context, you certainly can, so my answer can be specific. But in general, it is okay to take methylated B12 and leucovorin in the same day. You wouldn't start them at all whatsoever on the same day. And both of them are titrated slowly up to the dose that is appropriate for your child. That's another thing to keep in mind. So yeah, there's all these different research publications about leucovorin. and B12 as well. But the dose is where your child has clinical benefit, so you're seeing changes without negative side effects. So there's a whole art to all that titrating and things like that. If you want to ask more questions about, you know, the mixing, give me a better understanding, I can provide a better answer. But in general, that is the answer. Okay, so we have this one. Does a very communicative boy need the FRAT test? It depends on what you call need, right? So is communication an issue for you, right? So someone could have lots of words, but it might not be meaningful conversations, right? So when speech is an issue, right? So speech and really that communication piece, I think it would make sense to do a FRAT test. A FRAT test is, I believe it's $300 or less. So there are way more expensive tests, right? So we're not talking like $2,000 here or anything like that. If you have the idea of like, oh, I want to try leucovorin, I just want to try it, I would do the FRAT test so you know how much you should focus on leucovorin, right? Because there are so many things to focus on. Leucovorin is just one of them. Does it help kids? It certainly does. A ballpark 70% of kids with autism have these antibodies in their brain, right? So just from that stat alone of 70%, right? The majority of kids with autism have this issue, right? This antibody issue. I wouldn't say he needs the FRAT test, but would it make logical sense to do that based upon the stats and also maybe just your own peace of mind? So if you do the FRAT test and it comes back negative, then some doctors still trial small doses of leucovorin or the 5-MTHF. And sometimes there are some great benefits seen, but it's at such a lower dose. And again, dosing, you get an idea from the FRAT test. So if the FRAT test comes back positive, you're thinking, okay, more than likely they're going to need a decent amount of a dose. But if it comes back negative, you still trial it, you potentially might not need as much of a dose that you would if it were positive. So you want to think about that for yourself as to, do you want to spend the money there? How much of speech is an issue? If they're communicative, it might not be relevant for you. And then cost, maybe that is something for peace of mind. You're like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely do that, right? And then it's a blood test, right? So is it possible to do a blood test for your child without it being traumatic, right? We just talked all about trauma. So we certainly don't want to add to the trauma. Okay, so hopefully that answered the question. If not, then, you know, explain more of it so I can get to the root of it. Okay, Geraldine, you were asking about glutathione products. I definitely can do a video, a product review on that, or we can keep that for next YouTube live. But let me do a video on that so that it's up there. And if there's, just send me an email, Geraldine. You have my email address. Send me an email if there's a very particular thing you want me to do. If there's a few, just send me that as well. Okay, let's keep going. And I do apologize if I miss anyone's comments. Yeah, Geraldine, just to touch upon this again, it does hurt to think. I think this is a huge source of trauma for autism parents, just not being able to help. I think that is something that adds up. But it doesn't have to. If you use science, really start to get at those root issues, be methodical, make sure nothing is missed. So there is a way out for sure. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily like, it takes endurance, I think is the big kind of hurdle to get over. You certainly can use, like, we're talking about the frat, and like there's so much science and logic. There is a path to that other side, right? 37% of kids with autism lose their diagnosis, meaning they are completely healthy, they're out thriving, they're in school doing everything that they want. So I just think the path requires endurance and organization for sure. And for parents who want to work with us on the Navigating Autism platform, that is what we do. We're there for the endurance and for all the ins and the outs. So definitely, I agree. Okay. Let's see. Do you help parents order the frat test and leucovorin? I do not prescribe. Nope, I do not. All right. You heard that too, but time frame is 5 years. What's the time frame? That's a really long time to wait. I would agree, Mercy. 5 years is a long time to wait. I'm not quite sure what you're waiting for. You said time frame is... Oh, okay. I think it's manufacturing a different kind of leucovorin. I can tell you, the leucovorin that is on the market now, I have seen kids go from non-speaking to speaking 4 languages in 6 months, 9 months, things like that. So I would not, if your child needs leucovorin, I wouldn't wait 5 years for like a new formulation to be produced. That's not necessary. It certainly is not. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is just a thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully, whatever I said was good. So excellent. I do appreciate that. So I think we covered all the leucovorin. Oh, and Darlene, you're welcome. Oh, I don't know why. You're making me smile and giggle. So thank you. Thank you for the thank you. All right. So I also think like laughing is really important as an autism parent. Just these small moments of de-stressing, I think, are really important. So I definitely enjoy them. All right, we'll be wrapping up. I think there's 2. Let's see. Yes, Jeanette. Yeah, thank you very much. Mercy, if you wanted to join our platform, that's where we really educate parents. We give lots of support in the sense of, finding good doctors. How do you prepare for a doctor, right? You don't want to go to a doctor's appointment and be told no, like, so let's not do that, right? Let's not add to our stress. There's nothing worse than going to a doctor who can't or is not willing to help, right? So the platform definitely helps parents really understand who they want on their healthcare team, right? Like, how do we get this done? Because there's so much, right? Functional medicine doctors are great. So MDs, DOs, people like that prescribe, but not everybody. There certainly is not everybody is willing to prescribe, even though now the FDA has approved it. So there should be more willingness, but that's not the case. I certainly don't want anyone to feel like they're not getting what they need, because some doctors are still not going to prescribe it. A neurologist can prescribe, yes, but are they always going to? No. Yes. Yeah, you hate to be told no. our kids too, right? It's amazing. Yeah, I hate to be told no. And not just that, like if we get our kid, we'd probably take them out of school, or we take off from work, we go to this doctor's appointment, like we have so much invested in it. And then if the doctor's just like, no, it's there's trauma there. It's like, oh my gosh, I got so much, I got all right, I got, like all of this. And it then just feels emotionally like you're not getting things done and that you're failing as a parent. So yes, I hate to be told no as well. Awesome. Okay, so I think that is the end. I was only planning to go to 10 today, so we went 12 minutes over, but I certainly appreciate all the comments. Keep them coming. Let me know what you want me to go over in these YouTube lives, research. It's really up to you. How can I help you the most? That's what I'm here for. And if you want to work with me more, certainly check out our Navigating Autism platform. There's a link. That's the link if you want to see how we work with parents to make sure nothing is missed, because that definitely happens. And we work with parents for just acknowledging the stress that they're in, and we try and make their lives as easier as possible to get the information that will help their child. That's our mission. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next month. Bye.